Hey, Ray Del Vecchio here from websiteprofitcourse.com. I've been feeling some frustrations lately, and it got me thinking about one of the worst parts of freelancing that at this point is something we all have to just accept, and that is the evolution of technology. I grew up with computers. For the most part, I pick up on internet related stuff relatively quickly, but I think at this point, things are so distributed and are accelerating so fast that it's pretty much impossible to keep up with all the new stuff popping out, new software you can use. I mean, you have literally thousands of options when you go through every type of software you might need, like, business management software, project organization software, accounting. And then as a web design freelancer, you got domain providers, hosting providers, email marketing providers, e-commerce providers. So across any one of those dimensions, you have dozens of options, and everyone's looking for the best, and there really is no best. There is biggest, but you might need something cheaper, you might need something more specialized, and pretty much everything exists for anything you could possibly want nowadays. The hard part is usually finding it and knowing whether the company behind the scenes is actually reputable. And then the flip side is that if you want to exist online, you're forced to deal with the main big companies, Facebook, Google, Instagram. All of those companies, for the most part, are completely run by algorithms and software, which means you don't get to interact with a human. And this is where a lot of my frustrations have come recently, because there's been big changes with pretty much every single platform in some way, shape, or form. And I've dealt with problems that have persisted because there's no way to solve them. For instance, one of my clients, we've had ad violations because of wording that we use related to his service. But if you look at the policy guideline, his service is allowed. So we've had to deal with a bunch of ads getting denied over and over again. And you have to go to their customer support, explain the situation because they don't have any documentation of what you've said before in the past. The customer service for these companies is a complete nightmare. On top of that, Google My Business has just changed. They used to have a profile manager. Now everything is managed from the Google search page. There's too much going on because they're mixing both the management and the search page results. And I've also had a bunch of issues with uploading images. Many of them were failing for no reason. They don't give you any error message. So this is the way these big companies operate. And if you're managing an online presence for other companies, I mean, it's hard for you as a manager to keep up with everything. I can only imagine what the business owners who try and do everything themselves are dealing with. Not to mention, Google has also just switched over from using Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4, GA4. Completely different reporting software. All the reports that you used before are gone. And in a lot of cases, they make you use a third-party program called Looker Studio. It's another piece of software by Google, but you have to link in your Google Analytics 4 to develop your own custom reports for things that you could easily access before in Universal Analytics. So if you didn't notice, I'm super frustrated with Google as a company, but this is not just limited to them. I've had issues with Facebook, getting control of a Facebook page. These are things that if they had human access, customer service, I realize the scale of it's tough because these companies are worldwide, but this is something that could get fixed in 2 minutes if they gave you, a human to interact with. But instead, you got to go to an email form, get a phone call from somebody overseas that has no access to anything except reading the policies back to you. I don't want to make this a huge list of complaints, but I can keep it going because this is the reality of what you have to deal with as a freelancer. It's not all fun and games. Yeah, you get to make your own rules, but that doesn't mean that there aren't frustrations. But the other one is two-factor authentication. So a lot of my clients have that set up on their accounts. And if you can't create a manager account to something, you need them to be available and on the spot to text you a two-factor code, which completely defeats the purpose of you managing it for them, if they have to be available every time you need to do something. So I'll stop there and end with something positive, and that is, obviously, you're going to get a lot more power when it comes to what's going to happen in the future. I'm sure you've heard of ChatGPT. Everyone's talking about it. It's artificial intelligence. It gives you a human-based answer as opposed to giving you a list of web pages. Google's got their version of it. Microsoft has their version of it. If you haven't used any of this stuff yet, it is the biggest wow factor that I've had, since Google first came out, and I would say since the iPhone. Those are the only two things that I think are even comparable. If I'm missing something, leave it in the comments below. But the future is definitely going to get weird. There's going to be a lot of things that seem like magic that are difficult to even explain what's happening behind the scenes. You just got to figure out how to use it to your advantage. And that, of course, brings up the next question, which is this stuff going to replace you and what you do? This is another reality that we're going to have to deal with, and pretty much no one can predict what's going to happen. Like I said, things are going to be happening so fast that it's going to be difficult to comprehend. But my early analysis is that this is definitely going to replace a lot of boring work. So if what you do is a lot of repetitive stuff, this will likely be able to automate a large percentage of those kind of tasks. But some of the things that it can do are pretty amazing if you have a little bit of creativity, which for the most part, AI doesn't do great in that department. There is a first adopter advantage. And obviously, it doesn't just generate text. If you've seen some of the ChatGPT use cases, it can actually generate computer code. So you can give it an idea for an app you have or a website you have, and it can output the code. So I think it's going to enable a lot more people to learn web development because, again, if they have an idea for something, they're going to have a piece of code that they can review that does maybe like 70% of the task that they want, and they just have to go in there, clean it up, and customize it a little bit further. But the other thing that I see is that even though AI can give you answers to things, there's usually going to be some kind of problem that comes up. I mean, new problems are going to pop up out of this. And in the end, people still want to deal with people. Even though I'm somewhat tech savvy, I know that it's going to take me a while to figure out all this stuff. And for the people that aren't tech savvy, this is going to look like magic. So they're going to want someone on the other end that can explain this and implement some of these AI features and tools into their own business. So that's all I wanted to discuss in this quick video. If you're interested in freelancing, I recommend that you go to my website. I got tons of content on there, videos, tutorials, along with this free cheat sheet, 15 tools to start your web design business. I'm going to update this cheat sheet to include ChatGPT because that's the newest one. And if you're interested in creating websites, but you haven't yet learned that skill, I'll show you exactly how I use WordPress, which is the #1 most professional platform to build a website on. To get access to that free training, go to websiteprofitcourse.com/WP101. And both of those links, along with other helpful links, will be in the description below. So check that out. Last but not least, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to my channel. If you've used any of these AI services, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Let us know, how you used it, what it did for you. For instance, one thing I've been using it a lot for lately is just gardening and landscaping. I've been asking tons of questions and getting answers instead of having to go through dozens of web pages and trying to piece together the information. It's been really helpful for that, and I'm just starting to get used to it for generating code. Like I said, things are about to go weird. But if you want to put your head down and just learn something instead of, pondering what's going to happen in the future, I'll link up a couple of videos here, and you can add to your skill set and get some ideas how you can integrate the AI with what you're learning. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day.